To Radicata Nutrition. This is a weekly video for my YouTube channel to help you feel whole, to help you feel nourished, and to help you heal at all levels of your body, mind, heart, and soul, because we need all of these parts of yourself to integrate back together and to feel strong and nourished so that you can feel whole and at home within yourself. Think about it. How would it feel to feel home within yourself, with your body, with who you are as a person? Do you feel like you're there yet? You feel like you have a long way to go? Either way, know that it's okay to be exactly where you are now. And by listening to my weekly episodes, you're going to take little steps to get there. But you can feel home in your body right now just by accepting where you are. Know that you are not broken. There's nothing to be fixed. You just need to unfold. Let all of these parts of yourself unfold in front of you, within you, and nourish each of these parts of yourself little by little. And I promise that you will feel yourself blossom and bloom into the person that you've always wanted to be and that you've always been. So today I wanted to talk about emotional eating. Why is it so hard to stop emotional eating when it's something that we feel is not giving us any good, if only for maybe a few seconds of pleasure at the very beginning of it? Why do we keep doing it? Well, the reason why is that it's something that we've been practicing for a long time for many of us. I don't know about you, but I've practiced that behaviors for about 2 decades of my life since I was a teenager, since I was about 12 years old. And it's also something that is so anchored in this part of our brain called the survival brain or the primitive brain that is associated with survival. I know, consciously in your mind, your rational mind, you're able to think and know that emotional eating doesn't have anything to do with your survival. There's plenty of food. Maybe you think I have plenty of body fat too. I'm not in any danger of starvation or dying from lack of food right now. But believe it or not, part of yourself and that survival primitive brain thinks otherwise. For that part of your brain, whenever there's something hard in your life, whenever there's some hard feelings that are too big, that seem to be too big for you to feel, the one way that you've learned to cope with that is by turning to food. And so that has triggered kind of a very, very quick reaction and like a neural pathway between that part of your brain at the back that feels triggered, that feels like your survival is threatened, that then tells the front part of your brain, the frontal cortex, that okay, you need food right now, and it feels like it's what you need to do, otherwise you won't survive. In the heat of the moment, you feel like you completely lose control or that you're on autopilot. It just happens. And that's partly because it has been practiced so much, and partly because it is that survival part of you. This is one of the oldest part of our brains because it has been essential for the survival of the human species. So it has had, many, many good things and has benefited the human race for a very long time, allowing us to be here sitting today listening to this video. But in our day-to-day life, this is something that is causing us a lot of pain right now. And maybe when we were younger, having that way to deal with hard emotions, emotions that that felt too big for us, was really, really helpful. It was the only way that we knew to deal with those. This was our only coping strategy. And we should, I know it's hard, but feel that, it served a purpose and almost be able to maybe feel a tiny bit of gratitude towards that because it was the best tool that we had at the time to allow us to not feel overwhelmed by those big feelings and feel like we're hit by a big wave in the ocean that takes us off our feet. But now you're ready for something different. You no longer want to have that survival part of your brain drive the way you eat, which is then driving the way you feel about yourself and how you live your day and your life. So why is it so hard to change? Well, there's because of that. And we can compare that to learning a new language. I don't know if you've ever tried learning a new language, but for example, for myself, in case you haven't noticed, English is not my first language. So sometimes, even though I've been practicing that new language for a while, I sometimes in my head, I still think in my first language, which is French, or sometimes I have French words that may still come up. Uh, and that is because that's the most, that's what has been anchored more deeply into my brain. So we can compare maybe our first language for many of us is emotional eating and turning to food for comfort. That's what we've been practicing and what we've known as our reality for so long. But just know that as anyone can learn another language, even though it may be more difficult and challenging for some than others, anyone can do it. And you can learn a new way of relating to food and your body and yourself. And that second language may never feel as easy as your first language may have been. For example, I wish I was able to learn English at an earlier age, but it didn't happen. Doesn't mean that I cannot speak English. I can speak it now. But will I ever get rid of my accent? Most likely not. There will still be leftovers or traces of that story prior, So, if that first language is emotional eating and turning to food to deal with our emotions and using food as a coping strategy and worrying about food a lot and hating our body, it doesn't mean that we cannot learn a new way to do things. And as with everything, when you start learning that second language of nourishing your body, your mind, your heart, and soul at a much deeper level, and really trying to be kind and gentle with yourself and to take it slow. And as we saw in the last episode, to forgive yourself and really understand that you've been doing the best that you could with the tools that you had. And then slowly, little by little, we're going to learn new words, new grammar, new verbs, new vocabulary for that second language. It takes more effort at first, just like it takes more effort to do any kind of new workout or to learn how to bike, but you can do it. And those new neural pathways will be formed in your brain. And for me right now, it doesn't mean that I never do emotional eating anymore. And that's not true. It still happens, but it's not as I see it just as my accent or making using a French word or not remembering the English word for something. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. If I'm supposed to be speaking English with someone, then I just try to figure out what the best word is or try to pronounce better, or I try again. I don't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to have to speak French for the rest of my life and only French, and that's the only thing that I know. No, our brains are so malleable, and you can form new neural pathways in your brain. You can learn a new second language of where you relate to food and your body and your health in a new, different way. So, are you ready to start feeling more nourished and to try to do things in a different way? I'm not saying that it's easy. Just like learning a second language, it takes effort and commitment, but you are so worth it. Can you imagine your life without having food and emotional eating and all of these worries about your body rule your life? Imagine how much more space that would open up for you. So right now, yes, it will take more effort, but I promise that as you do this work, so much more will open up to you. Just give yourself the time. So here's what I suggest you do as your journaling prompt for today. I want to, because a lot of these behaviors are driven by our survival brain, which is not feeling safe. I would like you to try Start a list of the things that help you feel safe. What does help you feel safe? Because when you have that survival part of your brain triggered and not feeling safe and wanting food as a way to feel safer and ensure your survival for the next few minutes, then you'd be slowly learning what else you can do to feel safer. It doesn't mean that you have to turn to that list whenever that happens, but just have that list without having any expectation that you will change your behavior. So, what are things that help you feel safer? It can be words like telling yourself that everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. You're safe. No, maybe you need a hug. What are things that help you feel safe? Make a big list of that and just feel like when you read that list, how much more space it opens up inside of you, how much more it helps you feel grounded and safer, and cultivate that feeling and see where it leads you. But that's a little step that may seem too little to matter, but it does matter a great deal. And you have no idea where it can take you. Maybe that's the step that will allow you to cultivate more of that groundedness and become more proficient in that second language that you've been wanting to learn so badly. So I wish you a very good week, and until next week, namaste. Take care. Bye-bye.